got some feedback. Now, when I was talking about this, I said steady state motion of the charge. By that, actually I meant the charge is moving with uniform velocity, except for that small period in which it is accelerating. Now remember, your electric field E is going outward radially from the charge. Now when it is extending outward radially, the field expression is E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square. This is the expression for the magnitude of the speed. The catch lies here. The field lines are going from one point to infinity, which means they must be having some velocity by which it is going. Now, that velocity term or speed term is missing in your expression for E. That is what is causing the problem. The problem is what I am explaining is a very silly explanation or a dumb explanation. What happens is, you know, E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 into something. Now that let us forget that something. It is 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0. 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0, we can think of it as 1 by 4 pi into 1 by root epsilon 0 into 1 by root epsilon 0. Now multiply in the numerator and denominator root over of mu 0. So it becomes root over of mu 0 by epsilon 0 into 1 by root over of mu 0 epsilon 0. Root over of mu 0 over epsilon 0 is your free space impedance or eta 0, which means the free space is opposing the line of force. And 1 by root over epsilon 0 mu 0 is c, which is the speed of light. So in this case, it is moving with the speed of light radially in the outward direction. What happens when it accelerates? The charge is accelerating as well as the lines of forces are accelerating, but with different speeds. Charge is accelerating with a smaller speed than light, speed of light. But for lines of forces, it is same as speed of light. Therefore, lines of forces will move faster outside the charge region. It is moving faster. So you have the kink. That is the reason. Now the kink says that you have a radial electric field, you have a transversal electric field. Transversal electric field is responsible for radiation. Radial electric field is continuing as in the previous case or as for a static charge or a charge with uniform motion. So that is what I was trying to explain in the last class. Then I talked about two oppositely charged bodies are separated by a smaller distance. I said that each one of these is oscillating sinusoidally. So assume that charge of the positive one is q, negative one is minus q. Each one is oscillating sinusoidally, which means for q, you can write plus q into cos omega t. For minus q, you can write minus q into cos omega t. Omega, you know, omega is equal to 2 pi by capital T, where capital T is the time period. When t is equal to small t is equal to capital T by 4, this becomes cos 2 pi. 2 pi by 4, which is cos pi by 2. Cos pi by 2 is equal to 0. So upper charge and lower charge both will be 0 when we are at t by 4, when small t is equal to t by 4. Now as time keeps on increasing, small t starts from minus t by 4 and goes up to t by 4. When small t is equal to 0, in both the cases it is cos 0. So upper one is maximum plus q, lower one is maximum minus q. Then in the other extreme, upper one will be minimum of cos phi, cos omega t, which is minus 1. So upper one will be minus q, lower one will be plus q, which means literally they have changed their position, which is actually inferred or seen as these charges are moving in along their length or along the axis separating them. Because of that, lines of forces are created. Then when they are 0, when cos omega t is equal to 0, there is no charge. Lines of forces have nothing to terminate, so they radiate out or separate out from the charges. Then again they develop in the opposite direction. Then I told you about transmission line. Why transmission line is not radiating, how the fields are confined to the region around the transmission line and between the transmission line. Then what happens when we bend the transmission line or when we flare up the transmission line? How we start to see radiation from the transmission line. So this is what we discussed in the last class. Now based on this, I concluded that we can get radiation from accelerating charge. In all cases, we are getting accelerating charge. Now if we get radiation, then we have to use it appropriately. Now a device which gives us appropriate radiation or radiation as per our desire is called an antenna. So let us define the antenna or look at different definitions of the antenna. The IEEE defines antenna as that part of a transmitting or receiving system that is designed to radiate or to receive electromagnetic waves. This is a standard definition from IEEE. In the book Sulzmann and Thiel, the definition is, it is appropriate to view an antenna as a transducer that converts a guided or bound wave on a transmission line to a free space electromagnetic wave for transmitting case or vice versa for the receiving case. In the Balanis book, the definition is very precise. It says the antenna is a transitional structure between free space and a guiding device. Merriam-Webster dictionary defines it as a usually metallic device such as a rod or wire for radiating and receiving radio waves. Now these are the definitions. Now what antenna does? Now I'll look at the antenna function. I will tell you 4 important functions. The first function is conversion between guided wave and external propagating wave. Second is radiation pattern shaping. We'll discuss about pattern later. Then polarization control. Then synchronization with other antennas for radiation or reception. So these are the 4 important functions of antenna. We'll discuss them as we encounter each of the cases later. Now let us look at some important antenna types. Now I will discuss what we will discuss in this class and what we will not discuss in the class. So to be discussed and not to be discussed. To be discussed is thin wire antenna. Not to be discussed is aperture antenna, its counterpart. Then I will discuss about microstrip antenna, but I will skip reflector antenna. Then I will discuss about array antennas and I will skip lens antennas. So these are the 3 important types of antennas. I will show you examples of all these 6 antennas, but I will spend some time, 1 minute or 2 minutes on the 3 types of antenna on the left side. Let us look at wire antenna. The most common wire antenna you might have seen on TV tops, which is the first one. Then the second one is the loop antenna, which is again a wire antenna. Third is a monopole antenna, and fourth in the left side is a helical antenna. All these are called wire antenna because they are made up of wires. Conducting wires constitute these antennas. That is why we call them wire antennas. Now let us look at microstrip antenna. The microstrip antenna is an antenna which we also call planar antenna. Why? The reason is it is sandwiching a conducting plane on the ground and a conducting patch on the top is sandwiching a dielectric in between them. The dielectric has a dielectric constant epsilon r, thickness h. Conducting patch has length L and width W. Now what happens here is you see two conductors, in between them there is a dielectric, which means it is like a capacitor. So like a capacitor, it can store energy. Now the design is such that instead of storing energy, it releases the energy. Right? So if you can design it properly, a capacitor is a type of capacitor is a microstrip antenna which can radiate electromagnetic energy with proper design. This is a concept. Now let us look at some real microstrip antennas or designed microstrip antennas. So on the left is a rectangular microstrip antenna, in the middle is a triangular microstrip antenna, and on the right is a circularly polarized microstrip antenna, and on the top is an array of microstrip antenna. You can see there are 16 elements. So it is a 16 element array, 4 cross 4, 4 along x axis, 4 along y axis in each direction. So it is a microstrip antenna array. So this is a brief description of microstrip antenna or a brief introduction to microstrip antenna. Then let us see array antennas. Array antennas are a group of antennas. What you see is here is a group of antennas spreading over a large landscape. This is called giant radio telescope, GMRT, Giant Microwave Radio Telescope. This is the pride of India. It is situated in Pune. If you happen to go to Pune, go to this place. The center is called GMRT Center. See for yourself how far these antennas are there. What they do is, in this case, they try to receive astronomical data. Anything that is coming from outer space is received by these antennas. Lower one is a feed or a receiver for these antennas. Now let us see some aperture antennas. Right. So the first one is called a horn antenna, circular horn antenna. Second is a rectangular horn antenna. Third is a parabolic antenna. In all these cases, you can see instead of a conductor, there is an aperture, a larger aperture, which is radiating. Now, because of the aperture, these radiations from these antennas are collimated into a particular or a desired direction. When we discuss these antennas in detail later, you will know about these antennas, how they function, how they are constructed, etc. You will know later. But for now, know that these are aperture antennas where apertures are clearly visible. Then let us look at reflector antenna. The first antenna is called a corner reflector antenna. A corner is clearly visible. Two plates joined together, and when you put radiation into it, that is reflected. Second is a wire grid reflector antenna, and the last one is an array of microstrip structures, which is called a reflector reflect array antenna. These microstrip structures reflect the incident electromagnetic field. So these are three common types of reflector antenna. Then let us look at lens antennas. Now, in the lens antennas, what we do is we put dielectric lenses into the antenna or in front of the antenna. The first two structures from the left show you the horn antenna filled with dielectrics, which are so designed that they act like a lens. A lens function of a lens is either to diverge a ray from coming to it from a focal point, or that is, it collimates the rays, or to focus the rays onto a focal point. The third one on the right hand side, the third one in the bottom on the right hand side is an antenna which is very popular nowadays. This is a particular type of lens in which you incident electromagnetic radiation from one side, it will come out exactly diametrically opposite on the other side. So this is a particular type of lens antenna. The lens is so designed that it comes out on the opposite side. Now, a reminder to you about angles and solid angles. You are expected to have read this earlier. Now, how do you define angle? The angle, what is the unit of angle? Unit of angle is degrees or radians. What is radian? Radian is defined as the angle subtended at the center of a circle by a chord on its perimeter whose length, that is the chord length, is equal to the radius of the circle. So from the radius comes the word radian. So that subtends 1 radian. Whole perimeter, what is the length? In terms of r, it is 2 pi r. Therefore, the complete perimeter subtends 2 pi angle at the center of the circle. Now, this is the two-dimensional case. In 3D case, we call the angle to be a solid angle. In this case, a unit area or an area whose amount or magnitude is equal to r square, where r is the radius of the sphere. So look for an area on this sphere surface whose magnitude is r square. That area or that circle will subtend 1 steradian at the center of the sphere. Steradian is a 3-dimensional angle. This gives a view of a 3D angle, elementary 3D angle. Now let us consider what is called an isotropic radiator, or what is a isotropic radiator. Isotropic radiator is an ideal radiator or a fictitious radiator. It is like a point source. If you have a point source, then radiation will come out from the point source in all possible directions with equal probability without any preference of direction. So it radiates equally in all directions. So isotropic radiator is a point source which is radiating equally in all directions. It is a fictitious or hypothetical radiator. It does not exist in nature. This we discuss or understand because we use to make our further analysis easier in mathematical terms. Now, the power density of an isotropic radiator is given as P rad by 4 pi r square. Now, P rad means total power radiated by the radiator, and 4 pi r square is the surface area of the sphere. which means W0 or power density per unit area is the power density is the radiated power per unit area. Power unit is watt, area unit is meter square. So power density is watt per meter square. Unit of power density is watt per meter square. Now look at that expression. The power density diminishes as we increase the radius. So as you keep on increasing radius, power density will keep on diminishing. On the other hand, we define another entity for isotropic radiator as radiation intensity. We'll discuss these terms later. Now, but this one is radiation intensity is the power radiated per unit solid angle. Now, you know, for the sphere, the solid angle subtended at the surface is 4 pi. We just discussed it, 4 pi star radian. Therefore, U0 is equal to power radiated by 4 pi. Power radiated is what? 4 pi is steradian. So P rad by 4 pi is equal to U0, or radiation intensity is equal to, has the unit watts per steradian. Now let us look at field regions of an antenna. So suppose your antenna is at the center of a sphere, and the antenna is very small, which we call a small antenna. By this I mean that the antenna can be completely encompassed within a sphere of radius A. So antenna can completely occupy the sphere or can occupy a portion of sphere, but the radius of the sphere determines what will, of the radius of the sphere, maximum radius of the sphere that encompass the antenna determines what is the size of antenna. If that radius is much smaller than the wavelength, then the antenna is said to be a small antenna. Then the antenna is said to be a small antenna. A small antenna will have three field regions. One is called the reactive field region. In this field region, the reactive field or the reactive power is dominant. Reactive power means, or reactive field means, the field that is stored. Reactive elements, you know, capacitor and inductor are reactive elements. So they are power storing elements. Similarly, the reactive fields can be capacitive field, can be inductive field. They are power storing field. Then we have a radiating near field where the radiating fields dominate, but these radiating fields cannot have this independence upon the radius. So the radius determines also with angle, radius also determines what will be the nature of the field. So this radiating field is for R equal to 5 lambda. From R equal to lambda by 2 pi or 0.16 lambda to R equal to 5 lambda is the radiating near field for small antennas. And near field is R is equal to lambda by 2 pi or 0.16 lambda. Now if we are beyond R is equal to 5 lambda for a small antenna, then we say that we are in the far field region. Here it is only radiation. There is no question of any storage or reactive field. Now, similarly, imagine that a square box or a square, normal square of size D can encompass your antenna. If D is greater than 2.5 by lambda, then we call the antenna to be a large antenna. In this case also, we have a reactive near field, we have a radiating near field, and we have a far field. In the reactive near field, fields are purely reactive in nature. In the radiating near field, they are radiating, and in the far field, they are radiating completely with fully defined radiation pattern. But problem is here in the radiating near field, the field pattern can change. Now this is also in called terms of optics. The radiating near field is called the Fresnel field, and the radiating fields are called the Fraunhofer fields. The Fresnel fields are up to a distance of r is equal to 2d square by lambda, and near field is up to a distance of 0.62 root over of d square by lambda, and beyond 2d square by lambda is the far field. Now remember one thing which is very important in terms of the field regions. The antenna or radiation, when we are dealing with radiation for communication, the far field is important. But when we are dealing with radiation for imaging purpose, particularly near field imaging, the radiating near field is important. So I hope you know that there is something called a what type of test in the medical terminology. I am forgetting that. There is something called endoscopy. Now, what is endoscopy? They put a tube into your stomach through your mouth. At the top of the tube, there is an antenna. It can be an optical antenna. It can be a microwave antenna. Now, that goes to your stomach and explores the area over your stomach. It is acting in the near field region. In the near field region, remember the field is varying as 1 by r square. In the far field, it is 1 by r. When r is small, r square, 1 by r square and 1 by r cube dominate. You can just imagine, take r is equal to 0.1. Then 1 by r is equal to 10. 1 by r square is equal to 0.01. 1 by r cube is equal to 0.001. So these are it is opposite. The 1 by r is equal to 10. This is 1 by r square is equal to 100, and 1 by r cube is equal to 1000. So you can clearly see the dominance in the near field region. So because fields are dominant there, you can image by probing in these fields of the antenna. So that is what is the utility of these field regions. Now let us whatever I told you that I have written here. What is meant by reactive near field? The reactive near field is in this field, electric field and magnetic field are in phase quadrature, which means they are 90 degree out of phase, approximately 90 degree out of phase. Then you have the wave impedance is very high, highly reactive, very high, and the energy is mostly evanescent, which means non-propagating in nature. So it is mostly stored there. You have to probe. You have to send a probe there. Then only you can see what is there inside the energy. In the radiating near field, E and H are mostly in phase. The phase difference is 0. Then Non-spherical wave fronts are forming in the radiating near field. So pattern varies with distance. If it is spherical wave front, the pattern remains constant with distance. In the radiating wave far field, E and H waves are have the spherical wave front. Patterns remain uniform with distance because you have got spherical wave front. They are in phase as in case of radiating near field, real wave impedance. Now contrast these. Since there is real wave impedance, so there is a propagating power. Propagating power is predominantly real because of real wave impedance. Contrast these. Reactive near field and radiating far field. Wave impedance are reactive and real. Because of reactive nature, energy is stored or evanescent. Because of real nature, energy propagates. And then second is in the reactive field, E and H are in quadrature. The moment radiation starts, E and H are mostly in phase. So these are two important takeaways while considering field regions.